Cursed game shows, apocalyptic fortune tellings, giant creatures hiding under California, absolutely normal sororities and other weirdness can be found in the Minerva Alliance project. Let's go on a deep dive together. Hello everybody, I hope you've all had a pleasant holiday. Thank you all as always for the continuous support. My video about Shakin's recently reached 1 million views. That's absolutely ridiculous, and it wouldn't have been possible without the original creator and your guys' engagement. So thank you all for making this channel an actual thing. It fills me with motivation. And stay tuned for more weird and unknown stuff, because there's a lot out there. So, today we'll be taking a look at a YouTube channel called the Minerva Alliance. In their own words, it's a collective analog horror project undertaken by various members of the analog horror community. It's not often that I come across an English language analog horror project that hasn't yet been covered to death, and that's also actually quite good. As always, if any of this seems interesting to you, please go check out the original creators and maybe tell them that Mulder sent you. This time there's also no language barriers, so you can go check it out before I spoil everything. What's particularly interesting to me about the Minerva Alliance, outside of the videos themselves, is the context that they've created around the whole project. You see, all of the different episodes are basically little standalone analog horror videos. But to give the project some continuity, they've decided to establish the Alliance as a sort of SCP type of organization. In fact, they've got a mission statement. Let's go over that first. This is an urgent message to anyone that can see this video, regardless of where in the world you are located. The following information may be shocking and/or disturbing to you, but is nevertheless important for ensuring the safety of both you and your loved ones. Our world contains phenomena, objects, and entities that are unexplainable by science and logic. And the world's governments are hiding this information from you, claiming them to be unusual cases of ordinary phenomena. This collective disinformation campaign has resulted in the senseless loss of countless lives around the world, and could have been prevented if each country's populace had known about these anomalies beforehand. And under this, we have the logos for the Ministry of Anomalies, the Department of Anomalies of the United States, the Department of Anomalies of Australia, and the Unexplainable Affairs of Canada. So I'm guessing that they're active specifically in English-speaking countries. It keeps going. That is why we have founded the Minerva Alliance, a non-profit activist organization founded to inform the world's populace of the anomalies present in the world, so that you can prepare and take action should anomalous activity begin occurring in your area. Our agents work day and night to uncover and provide proof of any anomalous phenomena, whether it's through recovered footage, documentation, or anything in between. We also, if necessary, safeguard any anomalies that are both safely obtainable and pose a severe enough threat to society if allowed to exist outside of our control. And there we have it. They're basically this world's version of the SCP Foundation, I'm guessing. Also, technically, this is the second mission statement. The first one is the first video on the channel, but has been declared depreciated. We are now looking at the revised version, which adds, as the description points out, the parts about making our commitment to assist persons outside of the United States of America more explicit, and expanding our operations to include limited safekeeping of anomalies found to be both 1. Safely obtainable, and 2. A significant enough danger to the populace if left uncontained. It is time that we as citizens of our respective countries stop being kept in the dark about phenomena that could threaten the stability and security of our daily lives if left unchecked. It is time to expose the truth that many have worked so hard to conceal and deny. Follow this channel and our related accounts for more information and news regarding the anomalous. You deserve to know the truth, and we are committed to provide this information to you. Stay safe and stay strong. The Minerva Alliance. So this serves as a sort of through line for the uploads, preventing them from seeming like totally self-contained shorts. I think it's always a good idea with these kinds of projects to give them at least some sort of continuity. It also kind of reminds me, outside of SCP, of something like the Magnus Archives, for those that know that one. Their role being a sort of archivists of these supernatural phenomena. So now let's move on to the actual horror uploads. Video 1. Mr. Know-It-All's Game Show Spectacular. The project starts off pretty strong. This supposedly recovered footage was published by Little Sisters Entertainment. We get the title card. Mr. Know-It-All's Game Show Spectacular. Fun for family and friends. Then we get some rules. Oh lord. Listen, I'm not afraid of clowns, but those lifeless beady eyes definitely make me uncomfortable. So basically it's a game played in 3 rounds, in which we'll get some questions to which we'll have to answer in a given amount of time. Ready to find out who's the Mr. Know-It-All of your group? Let's begin! The first round is in the form of multiple choice questions. We have 6 seconds to answer, and it starts out pretty basic.
Question 1. There are 3 different kinds of consumers in an ecological system: carnivores, herbivores, and…
Obviously, the answer here is B.
Omnivores.
Question 2.
How many rings make up the symbol for the Olympic Games?
And again, pretty easy answer, 5. Question 3.
In the book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, who was the first to be ejected from the factory tour?
And unfortunately, the first thing that came to mind for me was the Johnny Depp movie, and I immediately thought, fat poop shoot kid. So yeah, Augustus. Question 4.
Which of these countries is located the closest to the equator?
It's Panama. Then we get question 5.
What are the roots of the following equation?
Listen, even if I didn't absolutely suck at math, I wouldn't have been able to get this one. It's answer A. Pretty out of left field. Then we get to round 2.
Fill in the blank.
We got 6 seconds to answer.
Finish the following quotation. The only thing we have to fear is…
Fear itself.
I always run but never walk, murmur but never talk, have a mouth but never eat, and have a bed but never sleep. What am I?
And to be honest, I was already checked out at this point and had no idea. The answer is a river.
In order, name the first 3 letters of the Greek alphabet.
And this one's also easy. Alpha, beta, gamma. Then we get another strange question.
How are you feeling today?
Okay.
When you disappoint your parents, what do they typically do to you?
And the answer is just…
I understand.
With this guy winking at us. Alright, moving on. Round 3, lightning round. We only have 3 seconds to answer.
The blank of a boat steers in the water.
Rudder.
Water is composed of 2 blank atoms and 1 oxygen atom.
Hydrogen.
The American Revolution started in 1775 and ended in…
1783. We then start getting flashes of a hypnotic spiral, and the game gets quicker and weirder with every question. I'm going to stop at each one because otherwise they'd be impossible to read.
The act of eating one's own kind is called cannibalism. During the French Revolution, the device used to behead people was the guillotine. On average, how long can one survive without air? 3 minutes. The color of the alert that is issued when children go missing is called amber. The response people have when flooded with adrenaline is called fight or flight. The Aztec civilization often sacrificed children to appease their gods. As children, many people have had a fear of clowns. A term used to describe the child who's ignored or not cared for is neglected. The part of the brain responsible for fear responses is called the amygdala. The act of killing one's own children is called infanticide.
Then this happens. Yeah, great. I appreciated that. The text that flashes by fast says, "You deserve to be judged for your sins against your mother, for your sins against your father. The fallen one will find you. The fallen one will deliver you. Try to run, try to hide. It won't make a difference. Accept your fate. There's nothing to be scared of. You're going to a better place. A place free from fear. A place free from sadness. A place free from anger. Why don't you join him? He's waiting for you with open arms. Do not be afraid." So, one interesting thing that gives us context for these videos is usually the descriptions, which are very SCP style. Let's read this one.
Documentation on recovered footage. Title: Mr. Know-It-All's Game Show Spectacular. Creator: Little Sisters Entertainment. Date of origin: 2000. Location of origin: unknown. Recovery date: February 11th, 2004. Recovery location: residence of… in…
Ashtabula? Ashtabula? What kind of name is that? In Ohio, of course, it's in Ohio.
The tape came to the Minerva Alliance attention after undercover agents in the Ashtabula Police Department responded to the household following the sudden onset of catatonia and cardiac arrest in their son, who was watching a Mr. Know-It-All cassette tape with his mother moments prior to this episode and subsequent death. However, while the family's son succumbed to the tape's influence, the mother experienced no sudden onset of any medical maladies whatsoever. It is suspected that the contents of the above footage, which was taken from this cassette, are responsible for inducing the catatonia and cardiac arrest that claimed the life of the family's son. This belief is substantiated by the mother's statement that her child was screaming during the off part of the video, shouting that he can see hell and boogeyman on the screen. Mr. Know-It-All was a line of children's trivia games created by the Little Sisters Entertainment Company. The first Mr. Know-It-All product was made in the mid-1980s, with the product line being discontinued in 2014, citing low profit being generated from the product line. While Little Sisters Entertainment did have a series of Mr. Know-It-All children's questions set in the late 1990s and early 2000s, no records exist of the company having produced such a series on videocassette in this time frame, despite their original branding appearing twice during the course of the video. As such, it is suspected that the above footage was created by a third party, and investigations into the true identity of the tape's manufacturers is ongoing.
Interesting. So, as the video itself might have suggested, it is obviously targeted towards children, and the part with the spirals is probably used to sacrifice the children watching the tape. The mention of the fallen one makes me obviously immediately think of the devil, so this might have some kind of satanic implications. But obviously, to cause such a reaction, there must be something paranormal going on here. I'd say that's a pretty strong start. Quite simple, really, but effective. Let's keep going with the next video.
Video 2. PegaSys Neurolink promotional video.
Let's start with the description this time.
Documentation on recovered footage. Title: PegaSys Neurolink version 1.2 promotional video. Creator: PegaSys Innovations. Date of origin: August 6, 1996. Location of origin: former PegaSys Innovations R&D laboratory, Boston, Massachusetts. Recovery date: May 8, 2019. Recovery location: Archive Vault and former PegaSys Innovation R&D laboratory in Boston. In the mid-1990s, PegaSys Innovation had announced they were going to release a product that would dramatically revolutionize the telecommunications field upon its commercial release. However, the product was shelved under mysterious circumstances mere days before the product's unveiling to the public, without comment from PegaSys Innovations on the matter. Even though the company would eventually recover from the significant profit loss that resulted from this sudden action, the company's name would become slang in the technological community for hyping up a product that would never be released. For example, they really pulled a PegaSys on that one, and would leave a stain on the company in the decades that followed. Speculation surrounding what the product might have been also stirred in the many years since the announcement, with hypotheses ranging from an early version of 4G LTE network to a mere publicity stunt. However, during the relocation of the PegaSys Innovations R&D laboratory from Boston to the secretary of the CEO at the time, who was tasked with transporting items from the archive vault to the new lab space and was also a member of the Minerva Alliance, discovered a strange VHS tape in the vault that appeared to have not been touched in decades, and snuck it out of the vault to watch at her home. Upon viewing the tape's content, she immediately turned over the footage to the Alliance for review. It appears that this tape was a sales reel from the unreleased PegaSys product from the mid-1990s, as well as hinting at a reason why the product had been suddenly shelved without warning.
Interesting. Let's try and figure out what this cheekily named Neurolink is. We get a warning saying that this video contains restricted information on an upcoming PegaSys release and that it's meant to be viewed by employees only. That if you share any of this, you'll get the boot and get taken to court. From the following text, we gathered that the Neurolink is tied to personal communication, just like the description implied. Not only that, they say that while everyone is trying to make phones more compact, PegaSys is going to revolutionize long-distance communications. The Neurolink combines neuroscience and quantum physics through a technique called quantum telepathy. This video is a presentation, explanation, and guide for the Neurolink device. Most modern communication technologies use electromagnetic waves to transmit information from one location to another. These can be disrupted by environmental factors such as weather and distance. The quantum telepathy technique supposedly makes this issue obsolete, as it incurs no attenuation during the transmission process. The Neurolink electrodes access the user's brainwaves, sending their thoughts at a quantum level, making this form of communication literal telepathy, as the name suggests. But here we get a glitch, and for a split second some of the text changes. Classic analog horror shenanigans. Instead of saying to facilitate quantum telepathy, it now says to facilitate the mind melding. Great, you know it will only go downhill from here. This type of communication is instant and noise-free. We're now explaining how to use it. First, calibration of the PegaSys Neurolink must be performed in order to account for the user's brainwave activity. This helps the Neurolink system encode the correct thoughts to be transmitted to the receiver unit and ensures reliable performance of the system. But again, we get a glitch where the Neurolink gets swapped for Gateway to Ascension. And where it says that the thoughts will be transmitted to the receiver unit, it now says that they'll be transmitted to the collective. Once calibration is complete, the user places the Neurolink electrodes on their temples and dials the receiver's poly number to quantum synchronize the two units. The receiver unit will notify the recipient of an incoming call and can choose to accept or decline it. The latter functionality is identical to what is done with traditional calls. And again, glitch, and once calibration is complete, the user places the Neurolink electrodes on their temple and await further instructions from the digital Messiah of Harmony. The receiver unit will notify the recipient when the Messiah has new commands for the collective. The latter functionality is important for ascending mankind to the next order of existence. All other functionalities of the PegaSys Neurolink are identical to that of a traditional telephone. Users should keep the following in mind to ensure their safety while using the Neurolink. They shouldn't use it in a liquid environment for risk of shock or damage to the unit. They shouldn't drop it as it could break. They should store it in a cool location when not in use. Also, you should make sure that it holds at least a 20% battery charge to avoid damage when recharging. And any disassembly or repair has to be done by PegaSys technicians only. Further safety information can be found on the PegaSys Innovation website. But with another glitch, the instructions change. 1. Users should not resist the directives of the Messiah, for he is the one that will guide us to eternal glory. 2. Users should overlook their individuality and act only in the best interest of the collective. This is how harmony is obtained. 3. The sacred gateway must be equipped at all times. The Messiah may need the collective's help at any moment. 4. Users should not worry about the integrity of the sacred gateway. It is able to withstand even the vilest of defilements. 5. Disassembly of the sacred gateway is strictly forbidden. It is wholly impure in the form it was made, and does not need any tuning outside what the Messiah orders. Further information can be obtained from the nearest lead acolyte of the equalizer. Lovely. And you just know for sure that this is gonna be better technical support than anything Microsoft has ever offered. We get the last part of the presentation, future impact. They say that, although the technology is unprecedented, the Neurolink will dramatically accelerate the process of long-distance communications. We then get an important message.
Keep these words carefully, for they concern you and your future. Your true purpose and potential have been obscured by the material world. Your senses cannot see beyond the here and now, and have limited you from the beginning. However, I am the light of enlightenment in the sea of ignorance, and seek to help you. Achieving your true calling requires you to connect to something higher than yourself. The sacred gateway will allow you to receive the guidance you have been searching for. I will help realize your full potential and allow you to lead a fulfilling life. Remove the will from your eyes and see for yourself what the world has hidden from you. Your true purpose and potential await you in a newly Siam of harmony and prosperity. Until we next speak, may peace be upon you.
Alright, nice. So far we have a cursed child-sacrificing satanic tape and evil cultist Elon Musk trying to bring on the Singularity Evangelion style. I can only imagine what awaits us further down this path. Video 3. Unusual EAS Alert on June 25th, 1999. Here we have a shorter one. We see an episode of Arthur playing, but it suddenly gets interrupted by an emergency weather alert. It warns the citizens from the counties of Cass, North Dakota, and Clay, Minnesota. A severe thunderstorm is coming. The alert is effective until 8:30 a.m. That's awfully specific. A robotic voice tells us that the storm is moving approximately at 45 miles per hour, which is very fast and would be categorized as a supercell. It'll reach Mapleton at 9 p.m., West Fargo at 9:06 p.m., etc. Which is pretty bad because this broadcast is issued at 8:51 p.m. if I got that right.
Take cover now. Get to a basement, storm cellar, or other underground shelter immediately. Close and lock the entrance to the shelter. If you are unable to find an underground shelter, attempt to hide in a deep ditch, storm drain or the side which is as minimally exposed to the sky as possible. If you are in a car, evacuate from the Fargo area immediately, heading either north or south as directed by law enforcement. Do not leave your shelter or return to the Fargo area until the warning is lifted. No shelter above ground can protect you from this storm, regardless of its construction.
So, hiding in a ditch during a storm doesn't really seem like an amazing idea, does it? And in general, underground shelters are always at risk of flooding if there's lots of rain with the storm. Also, no overground shelter can protect you? This, together with how late the warning is issued, obviously makes me and everyone in the comments think this is no simple storm. Let's check the description.
Documentation on recovered footage. Title: Unusual EAS Alert on June 25, 1999. Tape creator, resident of Moorhead, Minnesota. Date of origin, June 25, 1999. Broadcast origin, National Weather Service in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Recovery date, September 14, 2015. Recovery location, yard sale in Lincoln, Nebraska. Additional information. The tape containing the above footage was found by Agent Bullite at a yard sale in Lincoln, Nebraska, as part of a routine yard sale check operation. The footage is of a home recording of Station 4 KLSE-TV, a national broadcasting network station local to Fargo, North Dakota, who was broadcasting a rerun of Arthur during the time the footage was recorded. During informal questioning of the seller, they claimed the tapes being sold were blank and had not been used since their purchase. 9 VHS and 2 Betamax tapes were purchased from the yard sale, and of these, 3 VHS tapes and 1 Betamax tape were found to have content. The above footage came from one of the aforementioned VHS tapes. While the recording itself is not anomalous, the severe thunderstorm warning contained therein is suspected to have been associated with an anomalous weather event. The warning originated from the National Weather Service office in Grand Forks, North Dakota, and was most likely broadcast from station WXK42 in Fargo, North Dakota. For brevity, only the portion of the recording containing the severe thunderstorm warning has been uploaded here. The unusual wording and duration of the featured warning suggests that a Type 4 supercell had formed at the time of the broadcast. However, radar and satellite imagery as well as records of warning issued by the National Weather Service show no evidence of this event occurring at the date and time indicated by the SAME codes. At the time of this writing, no known reports of an accidental EAS activation or intentional broadcast intrusion have been found. Further investigation into this event by Minerva personnel is ongoing. Updates on the investigation will be provided as information becomes available.
So, what are our running theories? Some say nuclear bomb, which might make sense, although if we suppose that we're talking about our own reality, we would have a record of a nuclear bomb being dropped. Others say it's hurricanes, but again, no mention of that in the warning, and again, they would have seen them coming a bit earlier, I assume. And more importantly, we're talking about North Dakota. A hurricane seems pretty impossible.
Though I know nothing about how they work, so you tell me if that's a thing.
And again, we would have a record of that. Once more, this is assuming it's our own reality. The warning could actually come from somewhere else, and that's why we wouldn't have any information on it. The other possibility is that we're dealing with some sort of eldritch phenomena that hit the area without actually leaving observable traces. Maybe somehow warping reality itself. Who knows? This one is great because it's subtle and indirect. It allows people to speculate a lot by using only a few morsels of information. It also thankfully doesn't go for BS like,
to survive the storm, you need to avoid speaking in the past tense, gather 12 silver spoons and get baptized or the storm will take you.
Or any other similar explicit weird stuff. Less is more, people. Obviously, the episode of Arthur playing in the background adds to the creepiness, because you could see yourself as a child coming across this message with no context while watching cartoons. Let's keep exploring.
Video 4. Tau Omicron Key Initiation Tape.
This one is great for me because of how memeable it is. You'll see what I mean immediately. We get a title card.
Welcome, initiates. You're almost ready to become sisters in the oldest and most exclusive sorority in the history of the United States.
So, you already see why this is terrifying. Sororities. Ugh. Before getting in though, you have to complete an initiation rite, which is what this tape is about. It starts with an oath that you have to recite.
Raise your right hand up, palm outward, and recite the following aloud. I, Mulder, take this oath of initiation to demonstrate my acceptance of and honor for the ideals held by the Sisterhood of Tau Omicron Key, and to demonstrate my acceptance of all of the benefits and responsibilities associated with my membership in the Sisterhood.
Skipping a few lines.
I pledge to consume the elixir of sisterhood, which will demonstrate my loyalty and commitment to the mission of the Sisterhood, and to make my fellow sisters aware of this. Most importantly, I pledge my time and my resources to ensure the continued presence of the sisterhood, and to ensure her customs and beliefs remain in place in the decades to come. In the name of the eternal sisterhood, I swear the above.
We'll now get instructions on how to prepare this elixir of sisterhood, which is to be drunk in the third part of the initiation.
Pour 40 milliliters of vodka into the glass. This represents the spirit of sisterhood.
Okay, get your memes out of your systems.
2 shots of vodka.
Also, the first time I genuinely laughed out loud because I was expecting something different than spooky, and instead it's just old regular vodka.
Step 2. Pour 140 milliliters of fruit punch into the glass. This represents the richness of sisterhood. Step 3. Pour 70 milliliters of ginger ale into the glass. This represents the passion of sisterhood.
And again, I was howling at the idea of these girls just preparing vodka party punch and being like,
We're so esoteric.
it seems totally like real sorority behavior.
Step 4. You stir them all, and this represents the unification of the 3 virtues of sisterhood. Step 5. Bow your head and speak the following aloud. Sister on high, may the following actions be proof of our unwavering commitment to you and to the sisterhood. Step 6. Cut your hand with the knife provided and put 3 drops of blood into the glass. This represents the bond of sisterhood.
And there we have it. We were all waiting for this. You knew it, I knew it, moving on.
Step 7. Put 3 drops of blood into your neighboring sister's glasses. This represents the blood bond you will share with your fellow sisters.
Yeah, and get hepatitis.
Step 8. Using the provided syringe, obtain 5 milliliters of fluid from the vessel of life in the center of the table.
What?
Step 9. Inject 5 milliliters of life essence into the glass. This represents the eternity of the sisterhood. Step 10. Allow all ingredients to settle. You will consume this mixture in a few moments. Consume the elixir of sisterhood and watch the screen. Do not look away from the screen.
As we get again a bunch of fast-changing text that says,
We siphon the ichor of youth, so we can discover the truth of what our full potential is and why we could not achieve this. Nature itself is a burden on our lives already broken by the cold, cruel world around us. To overcome all this we must. Our ancient practices permit us to make time itself submit to our will, to our desire, for us to never expire. Rejuvenation is the key to our ultimate destiny. Eternal youth will set us free from natural powers that be. Youth is only for the worthy, those who prize it like a trophy, and who do not believe this fact should not be in sisterly pact. Our existence is forbidden by those who want the truth hidden. In the decades since our founding, the hunt for us never ending. The sisters brought in our midst swear to abide by all of this. Serve the flock at any and all costs, else all we have worked for is lost. The sister on high is our guide, by her vast wisdom we abide. From her come the fruits of knowledge that we use to our advantage. Our youthful forms pervert nature, and thus are anything but pure. But eternal youth is the light that keeps our futures shining bright. Obey our sister on high's decrees. Through her, all our goals can be achieved. In the name of the sisterhood, praise unto her.
And we get this lovely image with the Latin phrase sub dextro veniens, which means something like under the right it comes.
If you have any questions, contact your chapter's high priestess for more information.
Your chapter? Great. That means there's more than one.
Girls will be girls.
So let's read the description for added context.
Tape creator, Tau Omicron Chi, non-Pan-Hellenic social sorority. Date of origin, unknown, mid-1990s suspected. Location of origin, unknown. Recovery date, November 13th, 2019. Recovery location, Tau Omicron Chi, Beta Tau Chapter House, Cypress Valley College, Virginia. Additional information. On November 11th, 2019, the entirety of the Beta Tau chapter of the Tau Omicron Chi sorority seemingly vanished overnight, with no indication of where they vanished to or why they vanished to begin with. While no evidence recovered from the chapter house could indicate where the former Tau Omicron Chi sisters may have vanished to, evidence recovered from the scene does link them to anomalous activities they might have been practicing for some time prior to their disappearance. Specifically, recruitment brochures and an initiation video featured above, recovered from a hidden storage room in the chapter house, are the strongest pieces of evidence supporting their potential involvement in anomalous activities. Analysis of college and chapter records, as well as informal interviews conducted with students at the faculty of Cypress Valley's campus about the sorority, have yielded additional information of interest to Minerva agents.
One student interviewed stated that the sorority was notorious for throwing the wildest and loudest parties on campus, and almost had their charter removed due to excessive noise and alcohol violations. Many of the students interviewed by Minerva agents have strangely said that most, if not all, of the Tau Omicron He sisters were extremely attractive and had very youthful skin, even for undergraduate college students. Furthermore, analysis of the chapter's recruitment records show that the chapter has attempted to recruit an abnormally high number of biology and pre-med students over the past 30 years. Potential reasons for this are being investigated.
Again, I like how simple this is and how it mostly plays with the implications. We're obviously dealing with some sort of witch coven that performs blood rituals to preserve their eternal youth. The symbols that appear, at least the ones I can place, also strongly imply witchcraft. It's interesting how they've disappeared though. Maybe they've ascended to the next step? Who knows? I'm noticing so far a concrete presence of these higher beings in the videos, like the Messiah of Harmony, the Fallen One, and now the Sister on High. It's quite interesting, and if we actually take these videos as being connected by the same universe, it's as if different higher and probably demonic entities are basically all toying with humanity in their specific ways, which again reminds me a lot of the Magnus archives. Let us continue.
Video 5. Madame Claire, the Psychic Savant.
I'll tell you outright that this is my favorite one. And what do you know? It's another broadcast distributed by the Little Sisters Entertainment Company, just like Mr. Know-It-All's game show. But before we get into it, let's read the description, because it's quite intriguing.
Documentation on recovered footage. Title: Madame Claire, the Psychic Savant. Tape creator: Little Sisters Entertainment Incorporated. Date of origin unclear, sometimes in the 80s for the tape and 1932 for the original film reel. Location of origin unknown. Recovery date December 3rd, 2019. Recovery location local video rental store in Redacted, Maine. Additional information. Rumors of a disturbing fortune teller video for children had circulated in the area since the early 1980s, but no actual video fitting this description had surfaced in the area for years since the rumors first started. However, Agent Peregrine, an off-duty Minerva agent, was shopping for a movie rental at a local video rental store when another customer burst through the entrance and hastily returned a cassette tape saying it needed to be destroyed immediately, before running out into the night. The agent rented this tape along with their original rentals and reviewed the tape's footage the following day. Upon review of the footage, Agent Peregrine immediately alerted the EAS Command Response Team to this station for emergency containment of the videotape. A review conducted by the EAS Command audiovisual specialists has deemed the video to be a Monarch-class temporal anomaly, and EAS Command has declared that this footage is to be viewed with extreme caution. While no major ill effects should result from viewing this footage, it is recommended that the targeted memory wipe treatment be followed after viewing the footage to reduce the likelihood of a causal loop being created in our timeline. Contingency plans to reduce a timeline derailment scenario to prevent the events shown on the tape from occurring are currently in development at this time.
This one seems to lean heavily into the SCP aspect of the project, especially with the mention of memory wiping. So let's see what all of this time anomaly stuff is about. We get the title card, and immediately after, a slow zoom towards a crystal ball on a table in the dark. Here we see the titular Madame Claire, who is actually voiced, which is always great to hear.
Why, hello, dearies. I am Madame Claire, and welcome to my tent of fortunes.
She tells us that she's been traveling the country and telling the fortune of ordinary people like us and the richest and most powerful men alike. Now we can witness her abilities. We start, first of all, with the horoscope. I'm not going to read all of them, but here's the first one to give you an example.
Your energy and confidence will be on full display today. You might also be more adventurous and take on that daunting task that you've been putting off for a while. However, be extra wary, as your drive to get ahead in work may affect your relationships with those close to you, and they might not be around for as long as you think.
So, outside of the typical generic horoscope babble, if we read them all, we notice a peculiar pattern in their last sentences.
Taurus, some unexpected events may occur in the future, and you'll need everything you've saved up on to get through them. Gemini, consider taking advantage of your connections now, as they may vanish at a moment's notice. Cancer, take the time to show how much you care for everyone close to you, as things may not stay the same for you all for too much longer.
And so on and so forth. All of them end with a foreboding sentence telling us that something pretty bad might happen soon enough. The second part is a tarot card reading. The first card is the Sun.
Your past, while it had your fair share of hardships, was filled with enough joy and encouragement to help you get to where you are today.
Then we get the Wheel of Fortune.
Whether your current life is thriving like never before or struggling to hang on, a major turn of events is coming to change your daily routine.
And finally we get the Tower.
Unfortunately, this turn of events will bring about more obstacles and challenges in the near future. Prepare yourself in advance to get through them as painlessly as possible.
So, here we go again with the foreboding talk. One interesting aspect to think about here is also the fact that normally tarot cards are used to tell a specific person's fortune, from what I understand.
I actually know nothing about how they're supposed to work, that's just how I've always seen them used.
But the fact that this is a broadcast directed towards a general audience implies that what the cards are telling us will affect everyone. This obviously makes sense with the previous segment having all the horoscopes ending negatively. So then we get to the last segment, the juicy one, to which Madame Claire herself says that it's her favorite part.
My job is not yet complete, however, since I will now take this information that we've gathered about you and use them to help predict the major events that will take place in your future. This is always my favorite part, so be sure to hang on to your seats as we look into the crystal ball one last time.
For this part, keep in mind that the show supposedly aired in 1932. It's all told in a mysterious and indirect way, but I'm going to explain what each event references. Thanks to the people in the comments who filled the gaps for me.
1. Steel clouds will move over the Vistula, commencing an outbreak of chaos all around the globe.
So, the Vistula is a Polish river, and this is obviously referencing the start of World War II with Germany's invasion of Poland.
In the fight against a sweeping ideology, a fruitless effort by a world power will commence in the jungle.
And this is in reference to communism and the Vietnam War.
An invisible yet deadly fire will rage in the motherland, and will continue to rage for eons after its birth.
This is obviously a reference to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster.
Fighting for a better life, many will wither in speaking out against the leaders in the land of the Yangtze.
Again, it's a pretty easy one, referencing the Tiananmen Square massacre.
4 steel beasts will plunge into the heart of freedom, ending an era of peace and fearlessness.
Obviously a reference to 9/11.
The earth will tremble and send terrible waves over the land, with many vanishing away in its wake.
And this one seems to reference the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and subsequent tsunami.
In the land of the rising sun, Poseidon will creep in and ignite a fire similar to one from decades prior.
This one is about the Fukushima disaster.
An alliterative yet deadly storm will descend on a large gulf, bringing widespread destruction with it.
And I agree with Free Willy Nilly in the comments who says this is Hurricane Harvey because of the alliterative part. This is where the images get much quicker and the events are harder to pinpoint.
A streak of fire from the heavens will cripple the globe in an era of machine supremacy.
This one might be referencing a particularly bad solar flare that could deactivate technology across the world, which hasn't happened yet, at least not on such a disastrous scale, but it is a real phenomenon.
An attempt to cut off the Hydra of Freedom's head goes awry, with the assassins condemned to death.
And at first I thought this was referencing JFK and Oswald, but so far the dates of the events have been only going forward. So again, this might be about something that has yet to happen. And as we've seen in recent events, is also not that far-fetched.
A vast yet frozen land will tear itself asunder over the essentials of life and the struggle for freedom.
This might be a reference of a possible conflict in Alaska or Russia for the extraction of natural resources.
Birds of prey carrying on Prometheus's legacy will be smothered by the ignorant and brash.
So this one is really interesting. It probably references the Minerva Alliance itself, seeing as their logo is an owl, a bird of prey, and they're trying to show people the hidden truth of the world, like Prometheus did in Greek mythology.
Being destroyed by non-believers?
I'm not sure who they're supposed to be, but it's probably either governments or the people themselves watching these uploads.
Ethereal trade will be shut down by the Achilles heel of the very medium itself.
Maybe referencing a massive failure of the stock market, maybe even cryptocurrency. The medium would be computers and the internet, I'm guessing, but I don't know what the Achilles heel would be.
A hostile northern brother will take over its southern sibling with extreme force.
Probably a forced reunification of Korea.
A forest with a rich and luscious ecosystem will meet a fiery demise only Hades can match.
Someone suggests it could be implying that the Amazon rainforest will burn down.
A virulent pestilence will render the riches of the sea inedible by many on the earth.
A mass die-off of aquatic life. And slowly, the last one. All life on Earth perishes. We finally cut back to Madame Claire, looking a bit different this time around, and speaking in a distorted voice.
Well, you need to read the bat. Your future looks quite bright to me, my dear. So much to
It's hard to tell what she's saying, but it seems like she's just ending the episode, signing off and telling us to come back again. So, a few thoughts. Many seem to think in the comments that the ending card with all life perishes and Claire looking now creepy and distorted is a bit much and ruins the immersion. I get where they're coming from and I agree to some extent, but for me, it's more about how it's done. Seeing as all of these are more or less self-contained episodes, I don't mind having them go a bit into the explicit horror imagery and atmosphere. And the way it's been done so far has been cool and stylish enough in my opinion, so I'm not gonna complain. I do get the immersion thing, but for me that's not really an issue, seeing as I already know it's a horror project on a YouTube horror channel. That's much more important something like the Forbidden Files.
By the way, check out that video please, okay? Thank you, love you.
Where the footage looks so authentic that it can make you question its origins. What's more interesting to me is the way that this little piece can make you think much deeper about its concept. If we look at many of the famous prophets in history, many will look at what they've said and be like,
see, they predicted it.
And that's obviously bull, because what they've said is generic enough to be applied to the right occasion. A broken clock being right twice a day kind of thing. What's fun here is that I found myself doing the same with Madame Claire's last predictions, before realizing that they weren't referencing events that have already happened. I mean, the world is so crazy even right now that when we put everything in perspective, none of the made up things here seem that far-fetched. And we've definitely seen similar stuff happen, so yeah. The psychological part of this, so to speak, works quite well if you ask me. So, the next few uploads are actually all audio logs from the same missing persons case. I won't cover these ones because I don't want to break up the pacing of the video too much, but also because I agree with what many of the comments say. The protagonist sounds way too much like he's reading a script instead of freely talking and making audio logs.
There it is. Hello, my name is Tommy Parsons and I just got started on a 4-day backpacking trip on the Pinewood Trail to help me process and work through some things before heading out to college in the fall. I'm recording this because I wanted to have something to help me remember the experiences I'll have on this trip.
It pretty much sounds like that time that Iceberg Boy decided to act, as he called it, on Creepcast.
It just kinda makes me cringe a little bit. The story itself is actually interesting though, so if you wanna check it out and what I've mentioned doesn't bother you, go ahead.
Video 6. Unusual Ad Council PSA, June 3rd, 1998.
This one's very short and my least favorite from the series, so I'm not gonna go too in depth. Basically it's, as the title suggests, a PSA, in which a voice tells us that across America people get together to share life's most treasured moments, but that there's a small but powerful menace that can bring all to an end. And it shows us this. The only thing that we can do is spend time with those we care about, because we never know how much we have left and when it will happen. And we're shown this badly edited picture of a man sitting in a chair, covered in growths. I don't know who this is, if you do, please let me know. The description doesn't tell us much that we don't already know.
Tape creator, resident of Huntington, West Virginia. Date of origin, June 3rd, 1998. Location of origin, residence of in Huntington, West Virginia. Recovery date, July 17, 2004. Recovery location, at a Goodwill donation center in Huntington, West Virginia. Additional information. While recording an episode of Hollywood Tonight on the evening of June 3rd, 1998, a resident of Huntington, West Virginia recorded an Ad Council PSA that people who claim to have seen said was extremely distressing and disturbing, and usually so for the Ad Council. The above PSA warns of an unidentified parasitic organism that is, given the language used by the PSA, very commonplace and guaranteed to be fatal should the organism activate in the human body. The video's narration states that the viewers should spend time with their loved ones as much as possible before this organism metamorphosizes, but at no point elaborates on what the organism is, what its infection vectors are, or how long it takes for the supposed metamorphosis to occur in humans. After the conclusion of the PSA, many viewers called the Ad Council demanding answers regarding what the PSA was referencing, and that the PSA be pulled from the air, citing that the PSA induced mass panic in the Huntington area and could cause disruptions to the daily lives for the residents there. The Ad Council denied any knowledge of having created this particular PSA and publicly dismissed it as a malicious hoax. However, it is interesting to note that the PSA has not aired at any point since the evening of June 3rd, 1998, and has fell out of the public memory in years since. Upon further investigation, no additional information on the parasitic organism shown in the PSA was discovered, and no public record of the Center of Special Ailments was found to exist. It is suspected that the CSA is linked to the United States Department of Anomalies, but this connection remains tentative at this time.
So I like this in concept, even though it's very brief. But the badly photoshopped image really took me out of it, if I gotta be honest. What makes it worse is that this was made by Remy Abode, the person behind Gemini Home Entertainment, a series that I love, so this was kind of disappointing to me. I don't know, maybe I just don't get it.
Video 7. Quakin and Shakin, Earthquake Safety Reel.
Now we have another pretty cool one in my opinion, very classically analog horror. The title is pretty explicative. The tape has been made by the California Seismic Safety Commission and is meant to teach us how to protect ourselves and family from earthquakes, seeing as earthquakes are a common occurrence in California and can potentially be very destructive. What could be strange about this? We first get an explanation of what an earthquake is, which I'm going to skip because it's kinda boring. Listen, if there's any seismologists out there sitting right now, I'm sorry. I think most of us know what an earthquake is. We then get a list of possible earthquake causes outside of tectonic plates shifting. These include
landslides, mining blasts, nuclear tests,
and... I'm sorry, what was that? Can we roll it back? Oh, subterranean creatures, got it. We're then explained how earthquakes are measured. Again, the details are cool, but I'm just gonna skip a bit forward. We then get to the protection measures. These ones are for when we are indoors and an earthquake happens.
Step 1. Drop to your knees to make yourself a smaller target for any object that may fall. Step 2. Take cover beneath a desk or table to shield yourself from falling objects. If none are available, cover your neck with your arms near an interior wall. Step 3. Hold on to the desk or table you're sheltered under and be prepared to move with your shelter. Step 4. Remain silent. No matter what you might see or hear,
they will know where you are if you don't.
It is normal to experience feelings of fear and anxiety while burrower worms are hunting for food. However, silence is your best defense for both you and those around you, and will make you less likely to become their prey.
And then we see this. We get some thanks and
any questions about any topic you've seen today can be directed to your presenter or the nearest Seismic Safety Commission office.
Yeah, I have several questions. But before that, let's check the description.
Date of origin 69, and recovery date June 29th, 2020. Recovery location classroom in an abandoned schoolhouse in Windy Sands, California. Additional information. While en route to an unrelated task further upstate, Agent Sparrow drove through the abandoned town of Windy Sands, California, and would have gone through the town without a second glance had they not discovered mysterious holes in and around the area. As the agent was a few hours ahead of schedule, they stopped to investigate it and find any possible cause for these holes and why some of them seemed to align with damage observed on some of the town's structures. Most of the abandoned buildings did not contain any information that could explain the presence of these holes. And the agent decided to check the abandoned schoolhouse before resuming onward towards their original destination. It was here that the above film reel, along with a couple other film reels not found to have anomalous content, were found in a classroom and recovered. A comparison of the above footage with the footage from other Quakin and Shakin film reels found in other towns in California revealed that the above film reel has information absent from the other reels. And this extra information pertains to a unique threat experienced only by the former residents of Windy Sands. It is unknown what exactly these burrower worms are, how Windy Sands became their hunting ground, or how the California Seismic Safety Commission were aware of these creatures despite the town being fairly remote and sparsely populated at the time of the film reel's creation.
So this is literally just tremors, right? Classic concept, big giant worms hiding underground and coming up to get their fill. Not that much to say, except that the video itself is well made, and I love when, even with a limited budget or abilities, creators manage to insert even for a split second some kind of animation. It's short but sweet. Especially because for now, in the Minerva Alliance, we hadn't yet seen any explicit, so to speak, footage meant to be real. Also, earthquakes in general are terrifying, and for me the imagery of giant mysterious holes in the ground is always effective. While watching Raised by Wolves, I couldn't stop thinking about those seemingly infinitely deep holes.
Insert holes jokes here.
Please HBO, bring the series back, you bastards. Let's move on to the next one.
Video 8. New Comstock's Community Choice 1997.
This one starts with an ad for
Dover's Family Restaurant, where our family is your family.
We're watching Value 3 WNCS LP and find out that we're about to see a special programming. This broadcast is brought to us by the New Comstock City Council.
It's New Comstock's Day, and while the festivities are now over, the day's most important activity is only moments away, the annual New Comstock Community Choice event. People will have the chance to decide on the winner of this day's contests and on matters that will impact the town for the next year.
The program is meant for those that can't vote in person. Just grab your telephone, enter the number, and press the corresponding buttons to vote. It starts, and the music suddenly gets very foreboding.
Issue 1. Please indicate which establishment served the best dish at the cookout competition.
And obviously the aforementioned Dobbers Family Restaurant wins.
Issue 2. Please indicate which art piece was the best in the Community Arts and Crafts Showcase.
And New Comstock, Then and Now, wins.
Issue 3. Please indicate which finalist performed the best in the Miss New Comstock beauty pageant.
And my girl Nicole gets the win.
Issue 4. Please select one candidate for the title of Bestower of Honor.
And my guy Richard gets the win. Lucky fella. I bet it's only because of that sick-ass restaurant he's got.
Issue 5. Please select one candidate for the title of Receiver of Honor.
Wait, there's a bestower and a receiver? Strange. And Jeff Gibson gets the win on this one.
Issue 6.
Please select one tool to sacrifice the Receiver of Honor with.
Oh, it's one of those votings. Of course, Dagger wins. Can't beat the classics.
Issue 7.
Please select one organ to extract from the Receiver of Honor.
And Lungs get the win. Yay! Ugh.
Issue 8.
Please select one of the Receiver of Honor's personal items to serve as an offering.
And they pick the wedding band.
Issue 9.
Please indicate whether or not you accept Elazareth as the savior of our town and that he led us to prosperity.
That 2% of people is probably Gibson himself and his family.
Issue 10.
Please indicate whether or not you will serve Elazareth in any way he desires you to from this point forward.
We get a last look at the snowy trees with the writing,
Thank you for your participation.
May Elazareth's blessing be upon you.
and something appears. So we've got another cosmic deity preying on people. They seem to really be sticking to the theme. What does the description tell us?
The tape creator is a former resident of New Comstock, Tennessee. The date of origin of the tape is December 13, 1997. Location of origin is Valley 3 WNCS LP, a micro-broadcasting station. The recovery date is July 23, 2020. The recovery location is the house of a former New Comstock resident in... Additional information. Rumors of a prosperous yet isolated town in southern Tennessee have been floating around for decades. Although travelers in the area the town was said to exist do not recall driving through or otherwise seeing a town fitting this description. However, those that were driving through the same region around mid-December have recalled seeing strange greenish-yellow lights in the sky for 2 minutes before the lights vanished. But all are seemingly unable to recall any specific events that took place during that 2 minutes time interval. All leads followed by Minerva personnel to investigate the cause of these lights have gone cold over the years, until a resident of contacted Minerva personnel and informed them that she was a former resident of the long-rumored town and had some information she wanted to share in person. An interview with the former resident revealed that this supposed town actually exists under the name New Comstock and that many of the rumors surrounding the town are in fact true. However, as access to the town is cleverly disguised and guarded constantly, outsiders who attempt to investigate in person have not been able to confirm or deny them. Although she could not provide any concrete reasons why, the town does not appear on any atlas, map, or satellite image, old or recent, despite the town being fairly sizable with about 1,770 people living in the town in 1997. The former resident states that the reason for the town's prosperity was tied to a yearly event, but was unwilling to elaborate on the subject, stating that even thinking about it brings up bad memories for her, and gave the agents a tape containing the above footage, stating that this should answer all your questions. The interview concluded shortly after. A proposal to use an eagle-eye drone to covertly investigate the area the town is supposedly located in is in the works at this time.
So, a pretty classic horror setup. A prosperous, mysterious town sacrifices people to some eldritch deity to keep its prosperity. But before we get to the last upload, this is where I'd like to talk for a moment about the good sides and the downsides of this being an anthology series of sorts. And also why I'd like for the project to come back and give us more, seeing as the last episode was 3 years ago. I really like the fact that these are different analog horror creators coming together and creating short morsels of horror in their own style, using their own concepts and visuals. And I also enjoy everything being tied together by this SCP-like organization, trying to archive and research all of these anomalous happenings. It makes the viewer's experience constantly varied and unpredictable. The problem is for me that while this does work well enough, with many of these shorts I keep thinking, damn, I wish there was more. Not because they're not cool on their own, but because the ideas they propose are actually intriguing, and I wish they were explored more. And that's where an actual series in the usual sense shines. We can get familiar with the world in which the action occurs, maybe even get to know some characters and actually care for what happens to them. The puzzle part of analog horror is always fun, and that's why I always tell you to check this stuff out before I spoil it and give you my theories. But in this case, it feels like a game with only one puzzle every time, and when you solve that, there's basically nothing else. It doesn't detract from the creator's work, and I know that making this type of video takes time. It's just that they probably have a greater chance of keeping people engaged if there's a more consistent through line, if they worked more on world building and lore. If we had gotten more subsequent parts of the same episodes in here, I think it would have taken an already good project to the next level. But those are just my own 2 cents, so you tell me. Much respect to anyone involved either way. With that out of the way, let's finish this.
Video 9. Boyd's Pest Control Employee Training Video.
I wanted to quickly point out how cool it is that most of these videos have their own little logos or tile cards. It's a lovely detail and shows the care that went into this. So, pest control is pretty self-explanatory, and this tape introduces us to the most common pests that can be found in people's homes and how to deal with them. The first section is about supplies and equipment. In our control vehicle, we have rodent traps, toolboxes, and lighting equipment, including flashlights and black lights. We'll also have pesticides, cleaning agents, and an emergency container of gasoline. That's if we run out of fuel, right? Right? It's our responsibility as employees to make sure that the supplies are stocked and functioning. Then we see the common pests.
Carpenter ants. Found in household wood, especially when moist. Symptoms of infestation. Chewed wood in the home's interior. Galleries running parallel to the wood grain.
And we get some more info on them, and that we should use
insecticides
to exterminate them.
Common rats. Found typically in sheltered areas with food and water. Symptoms of infestation. Chew marks on packaged foodstuffs, droppings on or around foodstuffs.
And we should eliminate them by using the traps. So far, so good.
Black widow spiders. Found in cobwebs in various corners of buildings. Symptoms of infestation. Presence of cobwebs in inhabited areas. While the bites of these spiders are venomous and potentially fatal, they can easily be removed using catch and release style methods. However, black widow spiders with yellow markings are to be left alone as they bless the house of the customer.
Wait, what the f? I didn't know black widows with yellow markings exist. That's crazy.
Shadowmanders, found in dark areas near bodies of water. Symptoms of infestation. Presence of black residue on surfaces, odd clicking sounds emanating from seemingly unoccupied rooms.
Alright, it kinda looks like some kind of gecko from the pictures.
While they are more rare than ants, mice, or termites, shadowmanders can be a challenge to remove due to their ability to disappear whenever too much visible light shines on their body. This ability serves as a camouflage for these creatures, and is unique in the animal kingdom. However, as these creatures are made visible by and do not react to UV radiation, black lights can be used to make shadowmanders visible, and can afterwards be captured using traditional animal removal techniques.
Then we get section 3, special pests, as if the last ones weren't special enough.
Disposal moth. Found inside pipes and garbage disposals. Symptoms of infestation. Frequent sink flooding, clogged pipes, abnormal sounds when disposal is turned on. Found within the plumbing of buildings, disposal moths can be difficult to remove depending on their location. However, if a disposal moth is located near the mouth of a sink, they can be carefully removed using a large pair of tongs to avoid bites and other injuries.
Lovely. Is this where the Californian worms come from? Somebody threw too much protein down the drain and turned the Mojave Desert into Arrakis.
Ectomole. Found in houses occupied by the superstitious. Symptoms of infestation. Apparitions appearing inside the house, objects moving on their own, fog on the lower levels of the house. Ectomold is a non-toxic variant of black mold that has been linked to various paranormal phenomena in houses they infest, ranging from mild poltergeist activity to demonic possession of residents. Ectomold must be removed immediately upon discovery and is done as follows. Quickly obtain the emergency gasoline can from your service vehicle, pour the contents of the can around the lower part of the ectomold infestation, ignite the gasoline from a safe distance, flee the house immediately after doing so. Call the on-duty Boyd's Pest Control Supervisor and inform them of the incident.
Ensure that the bodies of all occupants are charred beyond recognition.
Lovely. I like the connection to black mold here, which has been theorized sometimes as the cause of paranormal activity reports, as it can potentially make people hallucinate. So here we have a literal ghost mold that actually explains the activities as being a real thing. Let's check the description.
Documentation on recovered media. Title: Boyd's Pest Control Employee Training Video. Tape creator: Boyd's Pest Control, a small pest control chain. Date of origin: April 12, 1996. Location of origin: Boyd's Pest Control. Recovery date: May 26, 2020. Recovery location: basement of former Boyd's Pest Control location in. Additional information. Boyd's Pest Control was a fairly small pest extermination chain that primarily operated out of the Midwestern United States from the early 1980s through the early 2000s.
with the chain ultimately going out of business due to poor financial management during the last few decades of the chain's operation. During the time of its operation, the company offered pest removal services for a wider range of common household pests such as termites, rats, and ants, to name a few. Those who contacted Boyd's for pest removal often regarded them as the best in the business, and had exceptional customer retention during the nearly 2 decades of their operation. Starting from around the late 80s and early 90s, rumors of the company dealing with unusual types of pests began to propagate in the communities Boyd's operates out of, although these were largely unsubstantiated and no proof was ever found supporting such claims. However, a number of customers did notice that the employees of Boyd's carried more equipment that they believed was necessary for a pest removal company, and also observed employees performing inspection routines seemingly unrelated to what they were originally called for. When pressed on all of these matters, employees simply stated it was standard operating procedure to ensure the best possible customer service and would not elaborate further on the matter. The Alliance is currently seeking interviews with former Boyd's pest control employees to obtain more information about the company's practices and the rumors of unusual pests. But all of those contacted thus far have either not replied or declined to be interviewed.
Again, pretty much in line with what we have seen up until now. A seemingly normal thing turns out to be spooky. But this fits with my previous observation. Even a simple thing like this pest control service could be turned into a cool mini-series, doing just a tiny bit more of world building and fleshing out the creatures they mention. Maybe adding newer ones or giving us some actual logs from service calls and stuff. It would be so cool to see, in my opinion. As it stands, this is the last upload on the Minerva Alliance channel. The project has been probably shut down, which is a shame. I think it's mostly pretty high quality and shows a lot of passion. It's also weird that nobody has covered it yet, seeing as usually any English language analog horror projects get immediately picked apart by a bunch of channels. I hope this will make you check their channel out and maybe pester them in the comments to encourage them to come back. This whole SCP type setup usually works well for internet horror, so they might have a bit of a golden goose on their hands. For my part, I think I've already given most of my thoughts throughout the video. If you'd like me to hunt more lesser known projects that aren't foreign,
At least for English speakers,
tell me in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching and engaging with my stuff. I'm constantly amazed at how well my channel is doing and I'll never stop saying it. With that said, goodbye and see you, space worms.